I thought for sure.
We are live. Chair, we are live.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. We're gonna get started. Just a bookkeeping thing, not bookkeeping, but housekeeping. There are restrooms out the side door and to the left, in the first hall, and there is a sign and go straight to the restroom on the left. If you must do that. Okay. So we are gonna start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Can I get a volunteer, please? Thanks, Joe.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You. Okay, can we do a roll call, please? Here.
Mike Nickel,
Present.
Joe Rogoff,
Here.
Spencer R. Scott,
Here.
Betsy Van Dyke here, Cynthia Strucker. Here.
No, I'm not Cynthia, I'm Kat.
Okay.
Her alternate.
Right, Vicky Close,
Here.
Bonnie Lazar,
Here.
and Ty Hilton.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're gonna move to approval of the agenda. Everyone's read the agenda? Hopefully. Hopefully.
So moved.
All right. Anyone second?
Sorry, I missed that.
Agenda.
Oh.
We have a first and a
Who
second.
were the first and second?
First.
Great, thank you.
Here we go. Vote.
Please
vote by
excuse
hand.
the interruption. This is the interpreter. I would just like to advise the members that we have not been assigned in the interpreter function. Therefore, we can't interpret without interrupting you.
They should be, Maya should be in the interpretation room, and I tried to add you, Carlos, and it's not accepting you, or did you?
I signed on via the link that you sent me.
Let me
Hi,
try
Deb.
again.
Yes, and I have also not been assigned, Debbie.
Okay, it says that you are.
I'm not seeing the globe icon on my end.
Yes, the globe icon is not appearing on the screen. I think the
Me-
interpreter function has not been set up yet.
Hmm.
Anyone want to dance? Always.
Says that Maya is in as one, and then it says interpreter 2 is not joined. Let me try again. Okay, do you see the globe now? I do. Okay. I think we can continue.
Before Carlos is assigned, can Carlos make an announcement?
Yes.
He's already been assigned. Can you make the announcement, Tracy?
Sure. Bienvenidos. Si necesitas interpretación en español, por favor haga clic en el icono del globo.
Okay, so we had a first and a second on the agenda. Can we do show of hands?
Yeah, or just I.
All right, okay, all right. Now we're gonna move to statement of conflict of interest. If any council member has any conflict with anything that's on the agenda, now's the time to speak up. Anybody? Okay, and we have two items on the consent agenda. We can take them one at a time if you all like. The first is the April 11th minutes. Anyone want to move to approve the minutes from April 11th?
There is a typo in 6 public comments. It's food for thought.
Not food for thought.
Though, food for though.
We'll fix that.
Okay.
And if there aren't, major things, could we take it all as one vote?
Yep,
Okay.
yep. Anyone else? So with that change, do I have anyone who want to move to, we got one, second, we got a second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. The second one is bylaws update. So the bylaws have a minor, adjustment in them. That would clarify that service as an alternate on the River Mac does not count toward term limits. Does anyone have an issue with that?
No.
Does anyone want to move to approve the change to the bylaw?
So.
Second.
All right, everyone in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So now we are going to move to public comments that are not on the agenda. So if anyone has a comment that's not on the agenda,
There wasn't public comment on the bylaws. I don't know.
oh, does anyone have a comment? I'm sorry, I skipped over something. Does anyone in the audience have a comment on the bylaws? No? Okay, good. So we're gonna move to public comments that are items that are not on the agenda. So this is the time if you have something you wanna bring up.
Council members,
Um,
under by this,
I thought we were gonna do public comments.
and then
first.
public comment is 6.
Okay, all right. So we'll do council member comments first and then public. So any council members have anything that, not on here? Go ahead, Betsy.
Okay, on Saturday, the Vacation Beach Charles Renari Playground is opening, is a grand opening happening from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. There will be homemade goodies and a ribbon cutting. And we're all very pleased in Vacation Beach to have a brand new playground because it's been on hiatus for a couple of years now. It got flooded. It got sewage. It got condemned. So we have this wonderful, beautiful
It got
playground.
rivered.
And we in Vacation Beach are very, very excited about it. So come join us. It's beautiful.
Anyone else?
I do. One of my neighbors brought something to my attention that perhaps could be for discussion later in the year. And it's, a lot of you may know about this, FEMA community rating system for floods. And in my mind, it sounds a lot like sort of the fire safe program,
Oh, right.
where communities sort of get together to try and mitigate things that might come up in a flood. So that, I think that would be a great topic for maybe in the fall. Debbie? And then the other thing that someone has brought up to me a few times, so I feel like I need to mention it, is light pollution. And in many neighborhoods, there are mixed business and residential. And that's where it seems to be coming up a lot and becoming an issue for people. Again, I don't know whether that's really under our umbrella or not, but I wanted to bring it up.
Okay. Mike?
On May 29th at 5:30 p.m., there'll be a public safety town hall meeting for the Lower Russian River, and that will be held at the Guerneville School. Is that correct, Debbie?
Yes.
You want to add any further information on that?
Well, we are still pulling it together, but I think that there will be, it'll be set up sort of like a trade show format with booths with different public safety groups and with a focus on fire readiness and evacuation preparedness and resiliency.
We're good, thank you.
Yep.
I believe, I can't look it up right now, but I think there's a Guerneville night market next Friday on the 17th.
Yep.
Yes, there
5
is.
to 9 p.m. ish. Just wanted to. That's a Is this the appropriate?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
We will be there.
And we will be
Okay.
there.
Yeah.
In that vein, can I add one more thing?
Yeah.
Rio Fest is coming up June 15th. Cynthia already mentioned it at the last meeting, but we hope everybody turns out. That's in the afternoon of June 15th in the Monreal Amphitheater area.
Yeah, no,
It's on the night market, we do have people personating the
Thank you.
Mac booth, but we're looking for more. So if anybody in Mac would like to join us, you know, Betsy, Vicky, Patty, and Brian, I'm not sure who else will be there.
and I'll be back and forth to the gallery.
One final.
Yep.
On Tuesday, the 14th in Guerneville, the Guerneville community, the California Water Company on First Street is having a safety meeting, EOC meeting. So I don't know how well that's been publicized locally, but all are welcome to attend. So there'll be.
What type of safety meeting is this?
I have it, the setup is at 8 AM and it's going to run until 3 PM. And I will have to
Emergency
fine
operation.
tune the actual hours the show is
Yeah.
running, but I think it's running from about 9:30 or 10 o'clock on to into the afternoon.
And Mike, that's Sonoma County Emergency Operations Center.
No, this is sponsored by California Water Company here.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Guerneville.
Okay. Any other council members? Okay, now we're gonna go to the public with any comments, of anything that's not on the agenda. And I will remind folks in the audience, if we don't respond back, it's not because we don't want to, we are listening. But we can't have a discussion about the items that you're bringing up now, because those kinds of things have to be on an agenda, so. Anyone have a comment that's not on the agenda?
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Tony.
There's no X, huh?
There's
Is
no
that-
X, but I think from where you are,
Right.
you're good, yeah.
Good. I'm Tony Goodwin. I'm the Chief Radio Officer for Sonoma County Neighborhood Auxiliary Communications Service. You may have heard of me. I'm the guy who runs around and puts up repeaters and makes it so you can communicate when all else has failed. I wanted to give you an update that we are proceeding with adding more repeaters. We have one up on English Hill, and we're working with the county to see if we can get something up on Sonoma Mountain, Siri Tower, and Mount Jackson. Also, we're doing some teachings. Mike can help me out with this. We just did one at Holidale Club in Forestville. We're gonna be at the Cloverdale Expo, and we're gonna go to that neat thing you're organizing on the 29th. So come join us. On a personal note, I live in Casadero, East Dawson Creek Road, and I've had, see, our road is getting really messed up. We've had the slides that you guys might have heard about. We're the sore thumb in the county right now, I guess, but we've been working on this for about 3 years. Our road is in bad shape, and we're hoping to maybe bring it closer to the top of a pile somewhere. We're squeaking as much as we can, but I thought maybe I'd come here and squeak some more. Cause it's been 3-4 years now. We've been really asking for help on that road, and it just, the potholes are getting filled. Thank you very much, DPW. But the road is degrading pretty bad to where it will be eventually impassable.
Which road was that? Huh?
East Austin Creek Road in Casadero. And then I don't know if it's possible, Joe, maybe we could add NACS with your communication report. Maybe we can work something out where we work together, communication line. Thank you.
Thanks, Thomas. Anyone else? Anyone on Zoom?
If you'd like to contribute on Zoom, please raise your hand. I'm not seeing any hands raised online.
Okay, we're gonna move on to county update from our supervisor, which we're glad to have you here.
I feel like I've been missing you all.
Okay, you've done the
I'm gonna
probably get.
Scoot
Yeah.
closer to the owl. So I actually wanted to start off by first responding to a couple of things that came up during the board member comments. Really appreciate the comment about light pollution. During the STR, the vacation rental ordinance development process, that was actually something that I advocated for. Based on feedback that I got from someone who lives outside Forestville, who had a lot of light pollution. From folks who would have, lights going on or big, sort of lighted strands of lights, that would shine directly into their bedrooms. And so I mentioned that because there is a precedent now where we actually have a requirement for STRs to be dark sky compliant. And that language is already in the vacation rental code. The next opportunity to really discuss this more broadly would come during the general plan update process. So I think it would be really great if there is interest in the community and, exploring that, to look at the general plan update and specifically the specific area plan that we'll be doing for the Lower Russian River. And so I think that there's definitely a path forward on that. I also wanted to add my celebration and excitement for the opening of that playground. Lisa Day was an amazing advocate for that project. And I remember talking to her when the sewage was like running through her yard and dealing endlessly with the water agency. So that has been a long time coming and it's very exciting. That ribbon cutting is going to be happening tomorrow. And then also just want to say thank you. What? Oh, sorry. I keep thinking it's Friday. The weather makes me feel Friday. I'm like, okay, it's summer. We're done, right? No, we're done. And then I also just want to say thank you so much to everyone who has been tabling at the MAC booths at various events. I just think that's so important. I know that you've had some really good conversations, but that presence in the community is just tremendous. So I just want to say thank you on that. All right, back to our regularly scheduled update. So, wanted to mention something that I think is exciting happening at our Lower Russian River Regional Parks this year, which is that starting on July 1st, from July 1st to Labor Day, our day use parking fees are going to increase from $7 to $10 in a handful of locations that have high tourist traffic during the peak season. So it'll be Steelhead, Sunset Beach, and Guerneville River Park. And the goal here is actually to sort of decrease the intense traffic and kind of over parking that occurs, while also making sure that there's actually space for folks. Like a lot of locals that I know have regional parks passes, right? And so it's not going to impact you at all. If you've got a regional parks pass, you still get to get in, just like you would normally. But hopefully we can actually get sort of a little bit of extra revenue from tourists, also encourage them to use our shuttle, which will also be operating. Again, going from El Molino High School to Steelhead Beach and Sunset Beach. And that will depart every 30 minutes between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. and it's $5 per person. So we're trying to create like an economic incentive to, hey, go take the shuttle, as opposed, it's actually cheaper than parking at our river parks. And so, yeah, again, the hope is to open up parking for residents and annual pass holders. I want to mention that the only reason it's starting on July 1st this year is because that's the start of the fiscal year. And this was sort of a new, policy. And so in the future, it's actually going to be from Memorial Day to Labor Day. So it'll actually encompass the entirety of the season. So for now, it's going to be kind of part of the season, but going forward, we're hoping that's going to be happening going forward. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to explain that or refer them to our office.
Quick question, Supervisor Hoffman, is that $5 fee a round trip ticket or is it a one-way ticket?
It's a loop and it's $5.
So in other words,
Really good deal.
the question is, I guess I didn't address it properly. If you pay the $5 getting on at El Molino, do you have a round trip ticket?
It gets you back.
Gotcha,
Mhm.
thank
Yep,
you.
yep.
But how about a family with kids? Are kids free?
So we need to look that up because we did actually introduce kind of a kids travel free on public transit program, but I need to double check as to whether that applies to the shuttle, because that's not part of Sonoma County Transit. It's a special regional.
That kind of undermines if everybody's.
That's a
paying
good point.
$5.
Like a 5-person in a car for $10 is a better deal. I will follow up with regional parks. I think you raise a really interesting point. So I will circle back and we'll get that information and we can send an email out to that, but great point on that one. Anything else about summer traffic? I also want to mention, in the past, we have worked with communities to try to, get no parking areas to address the overflow. We are now going to be working on that in Monterey, in an area that has been kind of like having some over concentration issues and folks parking and sort of trespassing across private property. So I did want to mention that that work is going forward. And if there are any other hotspots that you know of, please let us know. We're working very collaboratively with Sergeant McNeil at the Sheriff's Office. And they actually are willing, they did say they would be willing to go out and like, spot ticket people if there are areas that they're seeing, a huge amount of people parking illegally to the point where, emergency vehicles can't get in and out. So as we enter the summer season, just one more thing to think about.
Linda, I'm curious as to why Forestville Beach Access, Mom's Beach, which has a parking lot, I don't think people pay now. Is that something that was looked at, or?
That is something that has been looked at.
And it's not on the
year.
shuttle loop either.
Yeah, and I honestly do not remember the reason. I know there's a whole history about this and I'm not remembering right now, but I can also look into that and find out more information about that one in particular.
Because it's a small parking lot.
There's only
Yeah.
about 20 spaces.
And that may be why, was it was sort of kind of considered not to be worth it. And if it's not staffed, right, that's the other thing, is that it takes actually staff people to then, kind of check and make sure if there's a machine that people are paying or if they're, taking it personally.
Right.
Yeah, but great question. The other thing that I want to mention is that some of the revenue from the increased fees we will be using for additional staffing for river patrols and for lifeguards and facilities maintenance. And I also just wanted to express how horrible it was that we did experience a drowning as well as a near drowning of 2 youth recently. And I talked to Sonoma County Fire District about it. I talked to Burt Whitaker at Regional Parks. We hadn't actually yet started our sort of free life jacket program. And we talked about, would it have been better or worse to have that program active? And we actually decided if you start the program too early, it almost encourages people to go into the river. And so, as sad and as frustrating as it was that we didn't have that resource available, we actually felt that by making that resource available, it could encourage people to do something that's not safe, which is, going into the river when it's really full and really cold. And so just wanted to let you know that that was a conversation that was had. And Sonoma County Fire District also agreed with that assessment that it's just, the river was too fast.
Has there ever been discussion, and maybe I'm just talking about Mom's Beach again. There are signs up that tell us like when the water isn't safe because of the algae or whatever, but there's nothing about the conditions of the water.
Swift water.
Yeah, so, and so people do go, in thinking that it's okay to go in.
Yeah, I will talk to regional parks and because we try to do a lot of like one-on-one outreach, like we have a lot of folks, just kind of walking up and on the beaches, but again, that tends to be more in the season when, more people are actually using the water. But I wonder if we could set up some kind of almost like having a gauge so that folks would know if the river is at this height, it is flowing at this many, 1,000 cubic feet per second. And, and that's the force of this if you're swimming in it, right? And one thing that I do want to mention, more relevant to the coast map, but we've been trying for years to get a light up sign along the coast to warn about dangerous wave conditions as well as fire severity. And we are finally moving forward with installing an electronic billboard out in front of the Bodega Bay Fire Station. So they're not cheap, but if that's something that we think might be relevant to at least a couple of high traffic areas in the future, or since we do have rangers, getting them to do visible signs, we can definitely explore that. But I think that's a good idea. I think the more we can empower people with information gauges, there will always be people who ignore it, but some people just don't know. So, all right. I also wanted to share an update, the whole sort of DEMA situation, which I feel like I'm probably giving Eric Grover PTSD right now. By the way, welcome to our auditor, treasurer, tax collector. Did I get them all? ACTTC controller. Okay, that was like I'm missing the C. ACTTC is what we call it for short, because otherwise a lot of words. And he'll be presenting on the TOC item coming up. But he was also integrally involved in DEMA, which was providing homeless services during the pandemic and the audits that were done. I just wanted to mention that as the Department of Health Services and the county sort of steps into providing services at those centers, we will be in kind of a transition period in terms of our ability to, send our HART and IMDT teams, which are our mobile teams elsewhere in the county. So I just want to kind of give a heads up that our capacity is going to shift to focus on that sort of, urgent situation. But that we hope that as that transition becomes complete, that we'll be able to, open up back the capacity for unincorporated areas like West County. And in the meantime, we still do have 2 full-time outreach coordinators through West County Community Services active in the Lower Russian River and Sebastopol area. So, so I just wanted to mention that. And also, you know, I know that the sheriff has been coordinating with regional parks on the recent clearing of the Gerudo Trail. Also something that you may be just hearing from folks about. So wanted to mention that, and so appreciate everybody's patience as with this transition time, and hopefully we'll be kind of back to our regular capacity soon. Finally, one more update. We have a confined animal feeding operation ordinance on the ballot. I need to be careful about what I say because this is a government meeting, and so this is not about politics. This is just about providing you with information. And I do want to mention that it will be before the Board of Supervisors next Tuesday. The staff report, last I checked, was not up, but we will be essentially sort of receiving reports from county departments regarding the economic impacts, the impacts to local government, and then the Board of Supervisors will have a legal and appropriate way of taking a position on this ordinance. That is the last item. And so if you have any questions, happy to answer within the best of my ability.
What is the ordinance specifically trying
So
to accomplish?
it is attempting to eliminate confined animal feeding operations, or CAFOs, from Sonoma County. And the question is sort of, you know, how overly broad is this? What is the economic impact to our community? You know, is it really in the interest of livestock welfare? And the other thing that it does is it actually heaps a number of unfunded mandates on county government. Like for anyone who loses work as a result of this ordinance, we are supposed to retrain them and help them find another job. That is one of them. It also actually alters our general plan and our agricultural zoning. That's sort of another implication. And then finally, and I will just say this as a livestock owner, it defines a confined animal feeding operation based on a number of days that an animal spends inside. And although I would not qualify by number of animals, you know, because there's a sort of minimum number of animals, I would say that I actually would have qualified in the past just for keeping my goats in barns when they had their babies, to bond with their babies and to allow them a place to, you know, give birth safely inside. So, you know, from kind of an animal welfare perspective, sometimes it actually makes sense to confine animals for periods of time, in my perspective as a livestock owner. And this ordinance would actually prohibit that. Or for instance, when you're raising, you know, poultry up, you often don't want to let them go until they're a reasonable size. You keep them inside to where there's warm lights and things so that they, you know, before they develop their adult feathers. So those are some of the things on the animal side of things. Just wanted to mention that.
Is this linked with the ballot initiative drive?
It is the ballot initiative that we're gathering signatures in front of grocery stores. So yeah. So we will have more information from all of our county departments at that Board of Supervisors meeting. And again, the Board of Supervisors is allowed to legally take a position for or opposed, just not to campaign for or against the measure on government time. Yeah, we're basically trying to do that equivalent of, you know, how where there's a state bill and then goes to what is it, whatever the office is, and they're doing all the analysis, and here's how much money it's going to cost taxpayers, and here are the, you know, so we're kind of doing that equivalent. Where we have all of our full-time department heads and departments already busy, now also generating reports about an initiative. So you were probably looped into.
Yes,
Yeah, okay, all right, thank you. And you probably, I don't know, McCall, I'm guessing you got thrown into it too, because that's how we roll. I think that those are all of my updates. Someone did already mention Wednesday, May 29th, West County Fire and Emergency Public Safety Town Hall at Guerneville School multi-purpose room 5:30. That was the only other thing. And happy to answer any questions.
We're happy to have you back.
I'm thrilled to be back.
Yes, I know.
We've been running amok. Oh, any council members have any questions or comments for Linda? Anybody?
I have something to add.
Okay.
On the CAFO, I've been keeping track and waiting for, the board information to be posted. The agenda was posted yesterday. I will, like I sometimes do, send that out to all of the MAC reps and alternates. So when I see that, it might even be on now. I'll get an email out to you with that information so that you can follow it. And if you want to attend or read about it. Kids 0 to 18 ride the shuttle for free. And I looked that up.
I just have a text from Tracy. I was about to say that.
And reminder for you and in your communities that vacation rental business licenses are required by April 11th. So if you know people that are vacation rental owners and they're still working on getting that done. And the other thing that I want to reach out to each of you and each of the alternates, but I want to meet with you one-on-one or in small groups and just get some input. There's, we do these meetings and there's Brown Act, but there's so much that we can do with less formality. I'm getting a lot of requests. How can we engage more? And so I'd like to meet with each of you and help you engage in your communities in the ways that feel right to you and the priorities that each of you have. There's 16 of you total, including the alternates, and everyone has, slightly different interests. And I want to help you all move forward in those ways. And it doesn't always have to be in this format. So now questions.
Anyone else in council? Anyone in the audience have any questions for Linda on what she just talked about? Yes.
I just wondered the exact. I just wondered.
We're not gonna be able to hear you online for the interpreter.
I just heard the name of the.
The name of the confined animal feeding operations ordinance, well, I can give you the sort of language that's the Board of Supervisors agenda item. I don't think it has been assigned a letter yet, but it will get a letter from the Registrar of Voters. And then people will be able to refer to it by the letter, just like we had Measure A, Measure B, whatever. So right now it is the initiative petition for Sonoma County prohibition on concentrated animal feeding operations ordinance. So,
Thank you.
mouthful.
Yeah.
Benny?
Can you come up
Can you-
here so
can you-
that the interpreters can hear you? Thank you.
Like, how many animals would you need to have in order to qualify for this? Cause there's tons of people that have 5 or 6 chickens, I don't know, I don't like that.
Yeah, I did read through the ordinance a few times, but I don't have the precise numbers and I wouldn't want to give inaccurate information. But we can definitely, once the staff report is printed, I don't know if you're on our email newsletter, but we can send out an email newsletter with that information. That again, will just be all factual, not political, not for or against, but just an analysis. And I don't know, Paul, do you have anything else to add?
No, I think we're just hoping that the staff report and the board reports from the individual departments will be published tomorrow. I think.
Okay.
Will
Great.
tomorrow.
So we will try to get that information out. But I'm a homesteader myself, so I understand your concerns.
And if you're not on our newsletter yet, there's a QR code on the sign-in sheet and you can get on the newsletter then.
Anyone else?
We don't send it out every day, don't worry. Once a month,
Once or
once or
twice
twice
a
a
month.
month, yeah.
Unless there's storms.
But then you want the information, so.
We do
Anyone
have a
else?
hand raised online.
Okay.
Debbie, it looks like I don't have the ability to unmute.
Let me do it then. Dory, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Oh, I just wanted to let you know that the original Zoom link didn't actually work, in case you're noticing a lot of people missing.
Thank you. How did you get it done?
I went to your website and that one worked.
Okay, thank you.
Zoom is apparently revolting on us today. It happens every once in a while.
All right, anyone else on Zoom?
I'm not seeing any other hands raised.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, we're gonna move on to TOT or transient occupancy tax, and we have Eric Roser and McCall here from the county to give us a little insight into what the amendment is to this ordinance the supervisors are going to be considering.
Hi, everyone. McCall Miller. I'm an
Okay,
administrator.
I'm sorry, one thing that I was gonna say. Look, if y'all remember at our last meeting, we did talk about this particular issue. and we talked about writing a letter, which we can still do, but since we had these nice people willing to come and talk to us about what's going to be considered, we thought it would be worth hearing what they have to say, and then we can form whatever we want to form as a MAC, and then write a letter after that.
McCall Miller from the County Administrator's Office. I serve as kind of the TOT fund and program manager. And with me is
Eric Roser, Auditor Controller, Treasurer, Tax Collector for the county. Nice to see everyone.
Thank you for having us. So we are bringing forward an amendment to our transient occupancy tax or TOT ordinance. And I just want to go over a few of the key points for this amendment. It's not a new tax, so the tax rate will not change. It's currently set at 12%. 9% is the base tax, and then 3% is the Measure L tax. So for a total of 12 increase in the tax rate. So like I said, it'll stay at 12%. The biggest point of this, actually, there's two main points to this, is to clarify the definition of operators to include the online travel companies, such as Airbnb, VRBO, and others. And also to clarify the definition of taxable fees to include service fees, facilitation fees, etc. So what that means is that Airbnb, for example, would be considered an operator under our ordinance. And then they would also, those fees that they apply when you book online that make your reservation double would then be subject to the TOT as well. One other thing is that it adds the term and definition of short-term rental to our ordinance. So that way we kind of coordinate with our vacation rental ordinance. We found that that term was missing, so we're adding that. The whole thing about this is that it's going to ensure that TOT is applied evenly across operators within the unincorporated county. So I just want to say real quick, this will be going to the Board of Supervisors in July for a first reading. July 9th, thank you. And then the second reading would be just a few weeks later. So that way we can meet that second reading and meet the guidelines for getting it onto the November ballot. So I'll stop there and see if there's any questions.
Council members, give any?
Yes.
Yes.
Clarification. So currently, the owner of an Airbnb rental is paying that 12%.
No. Currently, the county has a voluntary collection agreement with Airbnb, which contractually requires Airbnb to remit the 12% transient occupancy tax to the county on a monthly basis. So under the voluntary collection agreement, or VCA, the owner of the property no longer remits for that Airbnb activity directly to the county. That comes directly from Airbnb.
One further question. No, Holly. You're probably a good question.
Mike.
Thank you. I was a property owner in the county of Maui for 25 years. And the situation over in Maui, of course, there are many, many vacation rentals. And what they did, they required the business license, which I see that we're requiring effective June 15th, I believe, from all these people. But they also required that the actual business license be included in the advertisement for the specific rental property, and it has to be included on the advertising. And that way they're able to be sure that they were collecting the funding. And I brought this up a couple of years ago, and the county said, yeah, we'll look at it. And I still don't see anything along those lines for the actual business license or is going to be appearing on the advertising.
And maybe Supervisor Hopkins can help out if you have any information, but my understanding is under the new business license requirement, there will be an obligation to post that number.
Excellent.
As part of the online advertising.
All right. And then I had one quick follow-up question on the business license and the Sonoma County Soco correspondent today. It indicated the business license application is $1,415 for the application. What is the annual fee following up after that? Or is that an annual fee of $1,500 or $1,415 a year?
I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that. That's actually administered by the permits Sonoma department. Do you happen to know?
I don't know the number, but it is lower. And the initial application is fairly complex. Permit Sonoma has been kind of working through, in some ways, making it less complex because folks were actually really having a hard time with it, partly because it actually required the dark sky compliance and they, did they need to actually hire an architect to draw up how it's, sort of dark sky compliant, or can they just, show here's where our lights are and here's the type of lights that they are, which is what it ended up being. But it is lower going forward.
Maui County did it a little bit differently. They have a different tax structure than we have. If you had rental property in Maui County, they charge you what was considered the hotel rate for taxes, which was 10 times the amount of what a homeowner would be paying on an annual basis. So they really got their due, if you will. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we couldn't do that in California.
I know we can't, unfortunately, we can't do that here in California, right?
If I may add one more piece that's I think really important to know is that under the existing VCA, we don't actually get data about precisely where the vacation rentals are located, which means that we, in my opinion, get sort of undercounted in West County.
Right.
Especially since, we had the whole coastal zone, which previously didn't have any permitting, that wasn't required in their LCP. My understanding is that if the ballot initiative goes forward and is approved by voters, it will actually, by defining VRBO and Airbnb as an operator, allow us to go out and actually get that information so that we can actually know where these vacation rentals are. Although it may take a subpoena from county council, but we could still do it.
I would say exactly, once they're defined as operators, they are then subject to the audit provisions within the ordinance.
Okay, so sort of a follow-up. So given what Supervisor Hopkins just said, and now we know where they are and where that TOT is coming from. My understanding is it's still the TOT money will still get, even though we might find out, right, we'll just have information that we may have more TOT eligible or revenue coming in from this program. It still won't get distributed that way. It's
With the exception of the Tourism Impact Fund, which McCall actually oversees and where we get a percentage, it's basically a percentage of a percentage. But the percentage that we receive is divided up based on our percent of the revenue, sort of a countywide unincorporated revenue. And so if our percentage goes up, we will actually get a small amount more of money coming back into the fifth district for things like
based on this
community
new
programs.
way of counting.
Right, if that, new data allows us to demonstrate that we are generating more, and I really do think that the coast is the probably most likely place that we'll see that, then we would actually get some more revenue coming back into West County. As long as a majority of the board doesn't change that policy, and I keep hearing two of my colleagues complain about it, but that's only two. Others bring about to get money, and so we are happy with the policy as it stands.
And I'll just kind of build on that. So TOT is brought in at 12%. 3% is that Measure L, which includes the Tourism Impact Fund. That remaining, that 9%, or we call it the first 9%, is split into 2/3 of that goes into the Community Investment Fund, and then 1/3 of that goes into the General Fund. And that Community Investment Fund, that portion is distributed and used based on the Community Investment Fund policy as approved by the board. So there are a lot of pieces that it's used for. Regional Parks receives money from it. It funds a lot of the Economic Development Board's budget. We have a contract with Sonoma County Tourism. There is fuels reduction funding. There's RedCom funding. So there's a variety of things that money goes towards based on that policy from the TOT.
So what is a small percentage of the percentage?
Oh, the tourism impact fund? So
Less than 3%.
tourism impact funds is, like I said, that 3%. And of that 3%, the TIF or the tourism impact fund is 10% of that funding. Now that funding is split and goes a lot to roads.
Right.
You know, and different places.
Sure.
So of that 10%, you know, then that's divvied based on the percentage brought in by each district in the TOT. And historically, D5, the 5th district has the most, followed by the 1st, then the 4th, and then the 3rd and 2nd are very small amounts.
Which is why they don't like the policy.
Right. Okay,
Thank you.
anyone else on council have a question? Betsy?
So this is just a curious question. The voluntary collection agreement, how is that enforced and how's that working? Like I mean, they're voluntarily paying that 12%.
So it is, it's an agreement between the county and Airbnb, and we recently entered into a BCA with Home Away as well that was effective February 1st. So we saw the first dollars come in recently, but I think we've only received about 15,000 through Home Away at this point. So it's really early in the BCA, and I don't really have much to report on that. The county is receiving approximately $10 million a year from Airbnb that they voluntarily remit to us on a monthly basis. So it seems to be working well, but as Supervisor Hopkins mentioned, they don't provide any data regarding the actual short-term rental stays. So we don't have any ability to audit or validate the amount that is being remitted to the county. We effectively take face value. So
But this will change that.
So this would change it, and then
And
they-
sorry, would that be effective next January then? If it goes through the ballot in November?
if it goes to the ballot, if it goes to the voters in November and it's passed and it's a simple majority ballot measure, it would take effect, I believe, April 1st
April 1st.
of 2025. There's a certain number of days after the measure that they become effective. So Airbnb also contends that they're not an operator, and that's the reason for clarifying the definition of an operator. Their contention of not being an operator, under that, they don't charge the 12% TOT on their service fee, which is fairly sizable. I think it runs between 10 and 14% of the cost of rental, for short-term rental. But under the passage of the measure, it would effectively nullify the BCA because the online travel companies would be classified as operators. They would be subject to the audit provision, as McCall said, but they'd also have to remit 12% of their service fee, and they'd have the reporting requirement that other operators.
Okay. Who wants to go first?
Great, yeah, so I think this all sounds great. It sounds like homeowners or rental owners aren't going to pay more, aren't going to lose more, and the county might increase revenue. So whenever there's a presentation like this, I'm like, well, why are people going to be worried? And maybe is the worry that Airbnb might be like, this is no longer worth it for me, I'm gonna pull out, or, and just help me explain maybe what people might be worried about in this package.
That is, of course, a concern, is that Airbnb or the online travel companies would mount an offense against it, you know, a defense against this ordinance.
Yeah.
I will say we are meeting with those two two entities that we have BCAs with, so Airbnb and HomeAway, we are meeting with them to discuss this ordinance with them.
What about like Verbo?
That's, VRBO is under HomeAway.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, they're under the HomeAway umbrella.
Got it.
I can add on to that. My office has had discussions with Airbnb for years regarding enforcement and the terms of the BCA and them being classified, whether or not they're subject to 12% of their service fee. One of the Airbnb representatives a while back actually recommended that we go back to the voters to clarify the definitions if that is the county's objective.
Yeah.
So in some ways, it was a recommendation by Airbnb that the county do this.
Perfect.
I was following, I had the same concern. Do you know in other counties or in other states, whether there's any sort of fee taxation applied to the fees for Airbnb or anything? So in other words, would we be way out of step with everybody else? Or would this just be expected by Airbnb that we pass this?
You want to take your, you want me to? It comes down to the language in the individual ordinances. And as previously mentioned, the online travel companies assert that they're not an operator, therefore their fees are not subject to the TOT rate. There are other jurisdictions that I'm aware of. I'm aware of a few that have slightly different language where the service fees are taxed. And I'm aware of the city of Anaheim that went to the voters, I think a year or two ago. And they did the same clarification that we're recommending for the board. And they have been collecting service fees once it went into effect. They are not getting the data. For what it's worth, that was not apparently not clarified within their ordinance, but they have seen a significant uptick in the remits to TOT that they attribute to taxing the service fees.
Just, I think one last question. So is the easiest way to think about it is that right now the county is getting 12% of what the owner is receiving versus 12% of what the renter is paying. Does that make sense? Like the renter is paying, let's say $1,000, and with 12%, to Airbnb, they're paying $1,000 to Airbnb, and the owner is only getting 500 of that. And so right now we're taxing the 500 that the owner is getting, not the 1,000 that the renter is paying.
If it's broken down that way, if that's the actual cost of the rental and then the other 500 are the fees.
Yeah.
Then yes.
Okay.
I can clarify that a little bit. TOT is applied to rent, and rent in the ordinance is what is required by the transient, the amount paid by the transient to have the privilege of using the property, which seems like it should be the total amount paid by the transient, but the distinction is the online travel companies are not taxing their service fee. So even though that is part of the cost of using the property, it's not, the 12% is not being applied to that. But if you have other fees associated with renting the property, that TOT is applied to those fees. So.
But with my rentals in Maui, basically the fee was $200 a night. And then it would be the actual additional cost of the 12% over there, it was 14% Maui County, would be tacked on top. So people
That
would,
is correct.
that is,
And that's
same
the
like
way
we
it's
talked about.
done by short-term rental.
Yes.
companies and stuff.
Right, anything less than 30 days.
Yeah, and if you have, so you have a base rent amount, if they charge $200 cleaning fee, that is also taxed.
Right.
Because
That is
part of the cost of rent.
Good deal, thank you.
Any other council members? Anyone in the audience have a question on TOT?
I'm kind of still trying to understand it and maybe, so I'm a little bit better with examples. So say somebody has a rental, they charge a service fee because you use their umbrella. Is that what you're talking about, a service fee now also being taxed, whereas it wasn't before?
The service fee that we're referring to is the fee charged by the online travel companies.
Okay.
That is an additional, if an individual goes online and books a short-term rental, you can see the fee breakdown. One of the line items is the service fee charged by the online travel company.
Okay.
Which is really their profit.
How does that work when you have companies coming in and adding to vacation rental experiences? Because they often have a service fee on top of their regular service even. And So there's that question. Then the follow-up question on that is, in regular hospitality restaurants, actual service fees are now going to be illegal starting July 1st. So how will that change anything to do with vacation rental?
So taking the second question first, food is not part of it's not subject to TOT.
Okay,
So if you have an all-inclusive, then I'm not even sure if we have all-inclusives in Sonoma County. But if there's a food component to the stay, then that is not subject to the TOT. It's just a cost of the rental of using the property. So that would not change. And that might answer your first question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don?
I think my suspicion is that this is gonna be something that Airbnb is prepared for, because it's obviously gonna be a trend in the industry, so I think they're probably expecting it. But don't you think that because we're Sonoma County, we're like a real feather in their hat for the wine industry, so I mean, do we have some sort of a, so as part of their portfolio, I imagine that they would want us regardless of the fee. And then I just want other quick questions to follow up on that. Have we thought about like power and numbers, like getting them to join us in this, and so it's kind of like a system? If we're gonna do it, we would help information part of it also. Give us more power.
Yeah, to your first point, I agree. I think Sonoma County is a desirable location for tourism, and I would suspect that there would be an interest to continue to do business in Sonoma County. To your second point, my staff has collaborated with other county staff when it comes to voluntary collection agreements with online travel companies. And that collaboration has really been limited to voluntary collection agreements. When it comes to making ordinance changes, it's a county by county thing. So our ordinance just encompasses for Sonoma County, is for the county of Sonoma, it's just the unincorporated area of Sonoma.
is there,
Mags? Go ahead.
sorry.
No, that's okay.
Is there a projection, actual amount, to how much this is gonna change?
Do you mean how much we'll collect in addition? One of our vendors who does data scrape or the web scrape, has projected out about 1.5 million in additional TOT revenue. But of course, we won't know until if this passes and then it goes into effect. So it could be, you know, at least a year, or actually more than about a year, over a year before we'll know what that will look like. And then that funding, the revenue come in would be distributed based on the community investment fund policy I mentioned earlier.
So it's 12% or 14%.
I'm sorry.
For the activity that is related to online travel companies. The 1.5 million represents approximately 5% of the TOT for the county of Sonoma.
Okay, anyone else in the room? What about online? Tracy, is there anyone?
I'm not currently seeing any hands raised. If you have a question online, please raise your hand. There are no hands raised.
All right, thank you guys.
Can I
Yeah.
add one more thing?
Yeah, sure.
So one reason why I think it's important to do this is it'll help to level the playing field with activity that is booked online versus going through traditional property managers. Property managers, they don't have a service fee that's not subject to TOT. So the cost of doing business is built into what they charge for rent, and the entire amount is taxed at the 12% rate. Whereas if that same operator were to do business online, some portion of their marketing may be handled by the Airbnbs of the world and not be subject to the 12% tax. So it's really, it's an opportunity to level the playing field with the smaller operator, which is typically absorbs more costs. Right. Thank you.
I just have one quick question. Do we know which counties have Airbnbs incorporated or not counties in certain districts incorporated or?
We're not able to hear online.
Oh, I was just asking if we know which areas in particular have the most Airbnbs within the county.
The only way we would know that is to know, take a look at the vacation rental permits and know that, you know, and based on the amount of funds brought in that we know of outside of the Airbnb collections. Like I said, most of it is in D5 or 5th district, but the 1st district in that way is how we know.
Yeah, can I expand on
Yeah,
that?
please.
Because we don't receive data from Airbnb, we really don't know. That's one of the difficult challenges, not only with having good data, but being able to enforce the ordinance. Not knowing where the properties are and how many there are. We don't have the ability to answer those questions or fully enforce the collection.
Well, it kind of begs the question of the vacation rental ordinance that we just passed recently, in which certain neighborhoods were restricted, some were cut off, some were, you know, how is that happening if we don't know the current status?
We know what the vacation rental permits are, where they are, if they have a permit through Permit Sonoma. So only in the unincorporated county, of course.
But whether they do business online or the traditional way, we don't know.
Yeah. Anyone else? Right, thank you guys so
Thank you.
much.
Yeah,
I think that was,
appreciate your time.
that was very educational. Okay. Okay, we're gonna move to committee and community project reports. Do you have anything on community engagement and outreach?
Yeah, what I've got is that, we had a goal of updating the community engagement plan, which we've done in the packet. And the comment and questions got that. But having exhausted our charter, we are requiring the ad hoc. We have all committed very strongly to continued engagement, cabling, and community outreach in general. But unless there's a new project for us at some other point, we're done. And yeah, I guess what I'd like to say is that I really appreciate Vicky, Betsy, Patty, and Ty for their service on this committee, and I think we've done a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm proud of our work.
Thanks, Joe. Any questions on that?
Do you have a comment? I want to thank again,
Wait,
sorry.
we were on Betsy.
Betsy, I'm sorry, I apologize. I saw you got the corner of my eye.
No, it just occurred to me when Tony was talking, that if AT&T pulls the landlines, that would be a perfect new opportunity for a community engagement outreach effort to increase communication possibility within the communities when the electricity is off, which is frequently, as we know.
It's certainly not to say that there's not lots of work to be done with communication and engagement with the community.
So I would think that might be, you know, if AT&T pulls out landlines.
I think the work of that committee that I was on for a year, and not as recent, has been really, really productive and important for our community, and I appreciated the compliment today from our supervisor about the impact of going to these community events. And while I certainly understand that the ad hoc has done its job, if we do not, as a group, commit to the plan that I thought was really well written, and I don't even know if everybody's read it, but they should read it. Everybody should read it about what our responsibilities are going forward. I'm a little bit concerned that, like, who's going to keep housing all the equipment? There was a lot of coordination that went into having people show up at these events, have a MAC table, and interact with the community. And I think it's incredibly important that that continues And I don't know if it should, if staff wants to keep it up, but I go rah for this committee and for that particular aspect of what they accomplished over the last year and a half.
So I think I can speak to that a little bit, Patty. So, one, we still want to encourage the engagement of this entire group, including all the alternates, in all of our events. And luckily, we have Debbie, who took over the event scheduler for us, and it's been amazing. As well, we just feel really strongly that there was a reliance on the ad hoc. And I think maybe this might give people some wings to do some of that. In terms of the equipment, which has been housed in my garage for a year and a half, it's now going to the fabulous new Guerneville office of the county. So we're very happy. And that's a much more central point for everybody to get to, by the way. So I think that will help quite a bit.
I think also we're very interested in encouraging all the members of the MAC to bring events that they think might be appropriate for tabling to Debbie to put on the calendar. And then we can get the word out about those.
Yeah, I just want to make one more comment before you rip apart.
Sorry, Mike.
And that is that the first thing that the communications committee did was to add points to the job description of the MAC around engagement and our responsibility, because we felt it was very vague. So I encourage everybody to go back and revisit that document as well as the one in the package.
Anyone else on communications? Yes. Oh, Mike, I'm sorry.
Not a problem. I want to commend the committee for the hard work they did in developing the outline. I do have a comment on goals, and basically goals need to be measurable. And I'm seeing under subsection E, establish outreach to underserved and underrepresented constituents. And that's a pretty broad scope and all encompassing, but it's not going to be measurable in my mind. And I have some equity concerns with regard to that statement. We need to be reaching out to our Latinx community, especially here along the Lower River. 20% of our constituents are Latinx. And we have not mentioned anything about that in the specifically in the document. I think we need to go back and revisit it. Maybe we should keep the committee going for another month. Let them fine tune the equity portion and then come back to the council for approval at that time.
I agree, being more explicit would be a good idea.
We certainly talked about it with the committee.
Yeah, I'm sure you did, but we need to get it
Great. It's not
in black and
articulated.
white.
You guys, I will take a shot at a draft and send it out, so we can do this without a lag.
So that the ad hoc will continue for another month with that specific purpose. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask for a piece of clarification? One of the things that was added to this, if it's not going to be approved tonight, is a new goal about the bylaws allow, as long as the community engagement plan includes it, the ability for the MAC to nominate an ex officio non-voting student member from a local high school. And I have an opportunity in the month of June to work out a 4-credit plan with the high school principal. So if I could just, get not some guidance, if you would like me to move forward with setting that up.
Does anyone have an objection to that?
So I'll just start working on how the details for that
Right.
would work.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Okay, plaza infrastructure. Oh, does anyone, I'm sorry. Anyone in the audience have any questions about the communications ad hoc? No? Nope. Plaza.
I'm going to make one more comment on that one, and that is to appreciate Marcia for attending a meeting and being part of our deliberations and helping distribute information about it. Thank you.
Yeah.
And this is tangentially related to communications. I regret that I didn't present it in my county report, but it is about communications. I just wanted to mention that Lupe Catalan and I met with fifth graders at just right down the hall from here at Greenville Elementary yesterday to review not the plaza, but the potential park at the Park and Ride. They had met twice with Brian from Praxis, and they did all of this work, and 4 different groups of students came up with proposed park designs and then defended their designs to me, like why they chose certain things in certain places. It was a really heartwarming experience. And so I just want to mention that in the interest of communication, we are also actively really trying to communicate with students, and they work so hard, and they really, really want a soccer field. Also potentially a splash pad and definitely an environmental playground. Those were like the top 3. So I just want to throw that out there. Really, really appreciate all of the work of the communications ad hoc, and we're working on communicating with the students as well.
Okay, Plaza.
There aren't any
Oh.
hands, but should we have Tracy just?
Yeah, Tracy, if you can.
If you'd like to make a comment online, please raise your hand. No hands raised.
Okay, Plaza infrastructure.
The Plaza Committee has spoken with the business community. Max scheduled a meeting with the neighboring businesses of the plaza. We got their input. It's time to reach out to the community at large and get more feedback and ideas. And to that end, we put together the questionnaire that's in your packet. We'd like to get your approval to move forward with getting that out in every possible way to as many people as possible. We'll be doing a lot of online, but also in person, being at places where we can hand these out. I intend to hold individual times that I'll just be on the plaza to engage people about that. But I think one of the things that we need to do, if we're going to reach as many people as we want, is for many more people to be involved in getting this out. And so,
Does Debbie know this? Do you have this document?
Yeah.
We also have plans.
I need to give to all of us in an electronic form or?
Once you all approve it tonight, I'm gonna put it in electronic format.
Okay.
Yes.
And these will also be placed, paper copies in public places, and nonprofit organizations where people gather, and maybe, and we help distribute it in schools.
yeah.
And I'll get those created for you also with the MAC logo and everything. So I'll use these words, and I'll make a paper version and a digital version. Okay.
Mike.
You might want to reach out to the rest of the Rotary, since they're primary users, and perhaps attend a Rotary meeting and make a presentation.
Urban's been in everything.
Awesome.
Everyone's ours.
Yeah.
It may be obvious, but do you want input from folks outside of Gurnville?
Absolutely.
I think so.
Sure, because
This is the gateway to the Russian River in a lot of ways. And so I think it behooves everybody to have a point of view.
And who's gonna collect the input from these questionnaires? How is that gonna be handled? If we, just a note on that, if we do distribute beyond Gurnville proper, it would make sense on the optional name email to find out where people are coming from.
Yeah, zip code.
Zip code.
Yeah.
Perhaps you can put it.
Wait, I'm hearing, wait. Too many
There's a
voices
question
at
already
once.
on there that I.
Oh, in what town do you live?
Yes.
Perhaps we can put a link on Supervisor Hopkins' newsletter and then put it out that way.
Mhm.
That would be a
That
excellent
would make
push out.
sense too.
And Debbie said that she'd create an online form that can be filled out.
That's what I was. So we will have these events and things like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So do you want me to change question 8 from in what town do you live to what is your zip code? Then we can sort the data, like when we get it digitally, we can just,
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
okay.
There's just something about question 7 that doesn't sit right for me, because it's, and the question is there something about the current plaza design that must stay? I mean, part of this thing is to update the plaza to some degree, right? But would it be better rephrased? Is there something about the current plaza design that should be preserved or something like that?
Like that you love, or
Yeah,
because you're setting people up for disappointment.
Correct. It's just a very black and white, but preserve, even if they want to preserve it, the design might have something that changes it, but preserves the intent of it. You know what I mean?
I like that better. The must with the underline is kind of a.
Yeah. Oops. Sorry. Anyone else in council on this? Anyone in the audience have a question or comment about the survey? Tracy, can you see if there's anyone online?
No hands online.
Okay, great. Thank you guys for doing this. I
I
know.
need a motion to approve this as.
Oh, yeah, yes, we do. Yeah. Can we get a motion to approve this as amended as we spoke?
So moved.
Do we have a public comment?
I already asked. Okay,
So
second.
there's a second.
We have a second. Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Land use, no report, Mike?
No, that's not the chair.
Oh, sorry.
That's right, no, we don't have a report because there haven't been any items.
Okay.
And we had a meeting and just stay tuned as to whether we will have a meeting in June. It really just depends on if there's anything within our scope of our work that comes up. So far, not, so check the website as to whether we will be meeting in June or not.
Okay. Community stewardship.
So we do have, Lisa Nelson.
Okay. Lisa?
Let me,
Lisa, you should be able to unmute.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. Well, first of all, I wanted to say Vicky is leaving our project, and I wanted to thank her for all of her hard work. I don't think she's going to stop working on things, but she won't be a part of the committee. So we have an opening. I was wondering actually if Tony had any desire to join up in our committee, because we talk a lot about Cazadero and Duncan's Mills and not really knowing what's going on out there. And he mentioned something about a couple of things. Is he still there?
No, he's left. the
He's
building.
not. All right. Well, I'll shoot him an email anyway. I'm glad that you all chuckled at that. But I'll reach out to him, and you can see the report. I've not got much to add, except we kind of work on things that our group brings to us. So if anyone in the public has any questions, and we're always looking for community involvement. And just for Linda, I just wanted to say, you said something about it feels like Friday. It is Friday for me. So thought I'd also give you that little chuckle. It's good to see you.
Friday somewhere.
It's Friday somewhere. Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone have any questions on stewardship or comments?
No hands raised.
Anyone in the audience online?
Nothing
Okay,
online.
thank you guys. And I think that is the last of it. So this meeting is adjourned.
I know.